Hi, this is Joe's Gaming Journal. This would be the second episode. Today I'm just going to talk about my top 10 games and just show you what they are, just briefly explain each of those, and that should take up the amount of time I have for YouTube. Alright. Number one on the list is going to be ASL. Now I know that most people in the gaming world have heard of it, but this is ASL. This is the rule book. Doesn't look too bad, right? Well, if you open it up, it's not too bad, but that's not the rule book. This is just the charts. I've actually taken the rule book because it's so big, and I've broken it down into two different books. And these are just rules. Now, why would someone like that? All rules. Now, those are the two rule books. Not only do you have the rule books, but you know they have the boards. This is the old squad leader box. I don't play more. These are the boards. This is just a box of boards. The boards are modular, meaning you can use different boards for different scenarios. Pieces, you know, there's tons and tons of little tiny counters. These are called chits, C-H-I-T. These are Germans, and lots of Germans. Then there's, of course, the dice. Most dice are not this big. This here is just a thing I got off the internet that shows you all the different components for ASL, because I was losing track of what was available. You know, there's an unopened ASL rulebook for selling on eBay one day. There's historical modules. There's Pegasus Bridge. There's actually a solitaire version of ASL right here, which is more complicated than regular ASL in my opinion. And these are your core modules that you'll need with the pieces and everything else. There's also the scenarios. These are just scenarios that you can buy. There's magazines that have scenarios in them. The old General magazine had scenarios in them. There's the old General magazine that's out of publication. And that's it. It's an interesting game. Or you can do the smart thing, and this is plan B, is if you just want to learn the game. This is the ASL starter kit. There's starter kit 1, 2, and 3. Starter kit 1 will show you the infantry. Starter kit 2 brings in the artillery and the big guns like direct fire guns. And starter kit 3 brings in tanks. Now compare all this to this. This is the rules for ASL starter kit. It's only a couple pages. It takes out a lot of the fluff. Just gets down to the base game. 11 pages of rules. There's Euro games that got more rules than that. ASL is made by Multi-Man Publishing, still in production. It is why I like ASL, it is the tactical World War II board game. Tactical meaning that you control the fate of individual soldiers or individual groups of soldiers, where they go, what they do, who they shoot at. Now, is it a simulation? In a gaming sense it is, but realistically there'd be more fog of war, more chaos. You wouldn't be able to micromanage every single thing that happens on the battlefield in real life, but it's a great game. Every rule that you could think of is in there. I don't think I've ever played a scenario when afterwards I didn't think, oh man, I wish I would have remembered this rule. It may have changed the whole scenario. But you know, it doesn't matter. It's still a lot of fun. You don't have to use all the rules to have a good time. And if you want to get into it, I really highly recommend ASL Starter Kit 1. It's like 20 bucks. It's a good investment just to see if you like the game, because I'm sure most of you out there who've never played it have always wondered, why do guys like this? It's, you know, there's not many things that, not much else I can say about it. It's a great game. So that's my number one game. My number 2 game is Diplomacy. If you kind of think World War I in your mind, it'll help you a little bit. And there's only 2 kinds of units. There's ships and land. Pretty simple, right? And there's only about 4 or 5 things that you can do on your turn. There's no dice. It's just a game where you try to take over the world. First person or team of players to capture 18 of these little stars, 18 centers they're called, wins the game. Now, why is Diplomacy so fun? It's just a game of anything goes. You're encouraged to try to hear each other talk. You can make alliances. You can lie to each other. You can make like packs where you fight, but then you backstab someone later on, tell them you're going to order one thing and you don't. I know some guys who love this game like myself, and there's some other guys, and I won't mention any names, who can't stand this game. It's just too evil for their taste. But if you go into the game knowing that anything goes and it's just a pure evil game, it's fun. And if you don't take anything personal, I can't forget to mention that this game is almost better online, where you don't know the people personally, and there's some great places to play on the internet. Avalon Hill made my version of Diplomacy, but they don't print it out anymore. But you can find plenty of copies on eBay, and there's lots of versions of the game. It's been around since the 1950s. That's my number 2 game. My number 3 game is Breakout Normandy. Now this is probably one of the only games you'll see that's 2 boards put together that form an L. This is a area movement game, and I'm going to explain that because a lot of people don't know what that means. First of all, you'll see that this is Normandy, World War II, D-Day. I'm sure you're familiar. The map is not broken up into hexes, but into areas. This is an area. This is an area. Each area will then have a terrain modifier, which is the bottom half where it says +1, and the top number is simply where it's at, what number it is. The squares are special because of Normandy. That's the hedges, the bouclage, or however you pronounce it. Maybe more if someone can tell me how to pronounce that better. And some of the zones are red, and they'll have victory points associated with them. So, like for instance, here at Tilly is worth 1 victory point, the team that controls it. There's different kinds of borders. These are all river crossings, or rivers. All these black lines are rivers. And they have bridges that cross them. Units can cross without using the bridge if they need to, unless it's a flooded border. The units themselves are your basic unit from many war games. The chits again. The first number would be their attack strength, the second number would be their defense strength, and the last number is how far they can move. Now this is a game of in this series of games, there's a family of games that's right back here. You can see Monty's Gamble is the newest one. You got Thunder at Casino, you got Storm over Arnhem, and you have Turning Point Stalingrad. This is interesting. What you do is, on your turn, you activate one area. Now, if you have multiple units in there, so be it. If you have one, so be it. And then you do what you want with those units in that area. Now, if a unit moves, say 1, he can move 3 spots. There's 1, 2, 3. Now when he's done moving, he goes from being fresh, face up, to spent. Alright? On the backside, all he has is a defense value, which is a 2. It's not as strong as he is with his, obviously, when he's fresh. He's spent. That symbolizes their fatigue. They've used up their ammunition, whatever, if they've been in combat. It's very important because later in the game, when you do supply, you pay points of your precious supply points to flip people back over. You got there's an impulse game, and what that means is there's actually 6 turns in the game. If you play the short 1-week game, the first week of June the 6th, that week, then the game starts off each day starts off at 0 impulse. Then every turn that the German and then the Allied player make, it goes to the next impulse. You roll dice. If the Allied player ever rolls that number, if he ever rolls less than the current impulse, the day is over and it goes to the next day. Typically, the Germans want the day to end as soon as possible, and the Americans or the British want the game to go on as long as possible, so they have more time to capture what they needed for their objective. They need 10 victory points. Now, weather's a factor. I'm not going to get into all the details of the game, but it's really not that complicated of a game. You know, I used to think I was pretty good at this game. I played it a lot years ago, but I guess everyone I was playing was rookies, because I've recently been whooped on by Scott over at Point to Point, the podcast. I just got whooped up by another guy named Mark, who was a friendly game, but he kicked my tail too. This game there's a lot of strategy that goes into it, a lot of things that I didn't even realize that I'm learning. And I think I'm a much better player now after getting my can kicked so many times, but I'm sure I'm not nowhere near their level. This system, the area movement and the impulse track is just really brings a whole new dynamic into wargaming. It's not like hex gaming at all. I highly recommend it. That's why it's my number 3 game. It's not in production anymore, but you can pick up copies on eBay for not a bad price. I got my copy sealed, still in shrink wrap, I think for $30, and that's not bad at all. So my number 3 game.